Welcome to Chapter 5, Evolution of Biodiversity, Video 2. This is Ms. Thewison. In this video, we will go over speciation and organisms distribution. Speciation is the creation of a new species. Speciation can increase biodiversity. There are two ways in which speciation can occur: allelopathic speciation and sympatric speciation. Allelopathic speciation occurs when a population becomes divided due to geographic or reproductive isolation. Over time, the separated populations will evolve differently and become two different species. And an increase in species number increases biodiversity. This is the diagram from your book showing allelopathic speciation of Galapagos finches, or Darwin's finches. Sympatric speciation is an isolation that occurs due to polyploidy, which is an increase in the number of chromosomes. When organisms have different chromosomal numbers, they have difficulty reproducing. Polyploidy can occur naturally or anthropogenically, which means due to humans. Much of our produce has been created by humans through polyploidy. This is wheat, which is polyploidy situation created by humans. The rate at which evolution or speciation occurs is very important. If a population cannot adapt, they are more likely to become extinct. The rate at which the environmental change affects a species' ability to adapt. If a change occurs rapidly, species have a much harder time adapting and potentially surviving the change. This is one reason that scientists are so concerned about climate change and the rapid rate at which it is occurring. Another factor that affects the rate of evolution or speciation is genetic variation. If a population has a lot of genetic variation, then it is more likely to contain traits that will allow for the species to adapt and adapt quickly due to change. Whereas if the population has less genetic variation, there is little chance that they will be able to adapt to a change that occurs rapidly. Population size is a complicated factor. A large population is more likely to have a greater degree of genetic variation within a population, and therefore be able to adapt. However, large populations take longer to adapt and therefore have a low ability to adapt because you're talking percentage in the population. So if you have a higher population, it takes longer for that percentage of that trait to change. Small populations, on the other hand, can adapt very quickly to changes, but yet they also have sometimes lower genetic diversity. So while a small population can adapt quicker, it might not have the traits to adapt. Lastly is generation time. If a species has a short generation time, then they will reproduce rapidly and can adapt quicker to changes, whereas a species with a long generation time cannot reproduce as quickly and therefore are less likely to be able to adapt to a change. Rabbits have a short generation time, so the favorable trait will become more dominant in the population faster than in a population that has a long generation time like sea turtles, which has a generation time of about 35 to 50 years. Species distribution. Abiotic factors in an environment determine where a species can exist. For every abiotic factor, a species has a range of tolerance. Most of the species population is found in the optimal range. The optimal range is the preferred range of the abiotic factor, such as the preferred temperature. A few species can be found in the zone of stress. An example would be individuals that would be found in the area where the temperature are a little too high or a little too low. Individuals in the zone of stress are affected in a negative way and usually will not reproduce. On the extreme ends of the range of tolerance graph are the zones of intolerance. Individuals may occur in this range, but they are they remain there, if they remain there, they will likely die. So usually they will move on. When we look at all the different ranges of tolerance for all the different abiotic factors, we can determine a species' fundamental niche, or where they can physically be found in the environment. However, organisms do not occur in their fundamental niche. They occur in their realized niche. Ultimately, it is not just abiotic factors that determine where a species or population occurs. Abiotic factors such as competition also play a role. When both abiotic and biotic factors are taken into account, the area where the population occurs is referred to as the realized niche, or just niche. If the fundamental niche and the realized niche were graphed, it would look something like this. The realized niche would be a smaller area within the fundamental niche. A species' niche is more than a location, but rather their role or function in the ecosystem. No two species can occupy the same niche at the same time. If they do, it results in competition. Species are usually either niche generalists or niche specialists. A species that is a niche generalist usually have a wider range of tolerance for abiotic factors and is therefore found in a wide variety of habitats. They are also better at adapting to new situations like human development, like raccoons, squirrels, and coyotes. Please be aware that these species are often just referred to as generalists. Niche specialists, or just specialists, on the other hand, have very specific requirements and are therefore found in very specific habitats. Specialists often have a very specific diet, like panda or koala, but any specific need or requirement would make a species a specialist. Niche specialists often work well as environmental indicators. Environmental indicators are species that give us an idea or indication that something may be wrong in the environment. An example would be the presence of cattails in the Everglades. If there are cattails present, we can assume that there is phosphate in the water. Microinvertebrates, are also a great environmental indicator. The presence of organisms such as mayfly larvae and dobsonfly larvae indicate excellent water quality, while the presence of leeches or pouch snails would indicate very poor water quality. We will be conducting a macroinvertebrate study on our field trip to Crystal Springs Preserve. The last topic for the video is extinction. Extinction is the loss of a species forever. Extinction can be caused by a variety of causes, most of which have to do with the inability to adapt to change. Extinction is a natural event and leads to what is referred to as a background extinction rate. The background extinction rate is approximately 1 species per 100 species per year, or about 100 species per year, based on the assumption that there's about 100 million species on our planet. If the extinction rate is higher than that, it is considered a mass extinction event. There have been 5 mass extinction events in the Earth's history. The first that we know of was the Ordovician, then the Devonian, I have problems with these names, sorry, then the Permian, then the Triassic, then most recently the Cretaceous and Tertiary extinction, which is the one that wiped out the dinosaurs. Unfortunately, we are in the 6th major extinction event, and this one is the only one that has been caused by humans, and it is being caused by us. And the primary way humans are causing it is by habitat destruction. But we are also introducing invasive species, creating pollution, causing climate change, and overharvesting resources from the environment. And all those topics, all those little causes of the mass extinction are what we are going to discuss in Chapter 18. So this wraps up video 2 for chapter 5. If you have any questions about this video or anything in chapter 5, please let me know so I can go over it in class. And thank you for listening.